Again, thank you so much for making some time to chat today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, and what were some of your inspirations and getting it started.
So first of all, thanks a lot for having me on. I really appreciate it. You guys are certainly, I would call heroes in the category. And
Thank you.
as far as how I started as a college dropout. So I had this original grand plan to go to college, get a business degree, and then save all my money. And then I would quit my job, walk away from Wall Street, which I just knew I was going to get this big Wall Street job. And then I would take all of my money and go after my true dream of entrepreneurship. And so freshman year, first semester, I realized how student loans work. And I went to Howard in DC, one of the most expensive schools. And I would have graduated north of 100 grand in debt. And so I figured, why not just go to a bank? I was young. I was like 19 at the time. I didn't know it doesn't work like this. So I'm like, well, why don't I just go to a bank and borrow 100 grand and start a business? I don't have to stay here for 4 years and then leave school and spend the rest of my life paying that debt back. And so that's what I did. I dropped out, went back to Detroit and moved back into my mother's basement. And I wrote out a few ideas of businesses that I could start because I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I've always known that was my destiny. I just didn't know what type of business I would go into. And so I wrote out some ideas, and then I asked myself the question, if there was no such thing as money, but you had to work, which business would you go into? And so the one that was on the list that wasn't about the money was this beverage company. It was near and dear to my heart, and it was it was two things. It was my ticket to entrepreneurship and a way to carry on my family legacy. And so that's what I moved forward with. And I went bank to bank and got laughed at a bunch of times because here I am, 19 years old, applying for a $100,000 loan, no business plan, just nothing. Like, I'm looking back, laughing at myself at this point. And I just, got told no. I don't know how many times, I lost count. And then the trial and error began. So, what I did know is I needed some tea bags and I needed a pot to brew some tea. And that was it. So I just went to the store, borrowed $50 from my mother, went to a grocery store and bought some ingredients, bought a stock pot and brewed my first batch. And then the rest was history. I literally built this whole company on trial and error.
That is awesome. The added benefit of doing having these conversations is getting to hear other founders' stories. As I'm sure you can relate, you become engulfed in the path that you're on. You're trying to, make this thing sing. You're trying to build a business. You don't have the opportunity or the luxury to take a step back and see what others are doing. I'm glad that we get to pause and have this moment because there's so many parallels in your story and what some of the trials and tribulations that you had to endure. We had our own versions of that, and it's gratifying knowing that that there's some parallel essentially in our respective journeys. Can you talk a little bit more about how your family legacy is embodied through your business?
So my original recipe was passed down by my great-grandfather, and he was a chef for Marcus Garvey's Black Star Line and a Jamaican immigrant. And he came into America through Ellis Island, which is part of the reason we named it Ellis Isle Tea. He came over in the early 1900s, and he brought this recipe with him. And his instruction was for it to be sold and not told, which means put it on the market. And it stayed in the family for years and got passed down a couple of generations. And it was made for like family gatherings, and it was always my whole paternal side cooks, and we're all very passionate about our taste buds. And the talk of the gatherings was always this tea. And so I knew it was something to it. And I figured this could be my ticket to entrepreneurship. And the recipe had never been written down before me. And so I flew to New York I mustered up the courage to ask for it. And so when I asked for it, it was given to me like this: a couple lemons, a couple limes, some oranges, and then some tea bags. And then there you have the recipe. I thought it would be as simple as that because it's tea. Like, how hard is it to make tea? But this recipe is more, it's spiritual. I don't know how else to say it. It's more than just putting tea bags or herbs in a pot with some sweeteners. It's a whole experience.
That's an awesome and compelling way to describe it. So I'm definitely looking forward to grabbing some more. So let me ask you this: given how your family is represented in your products, talk to me a little bit about why you think it's important for Black-owned companies to enter the food manufacturing arena.
Black entrepreneurship is important, period, because of the fact that we just lack ownership. Like, we don't own anything. And I think that is one of the root causes of a lot of the issues in our community is the fact that, like, we'll get influencer deals and we'll put our face on different things and get maybe a small endorsement check. But as far as owning supply chain, it's just very, very important. And I think supply chain, period, we're learning the value of supply chain through the pandemic.
Yep.
But it's, as far as Black ownership in supply chain, in the agriculture and the food and beverage space, period, it's just, it's important, and food is a huge part of our culture. And with that being said, I just think it's necessary for us to have ownership in this lane.
Absolutely. That all of our gatherings, food plays hero, right? I think about when I go home and visit with family and hanging out with friends, we're typically breaking bread or having some beverages or libations. It's so embedded in our culture, and that to the point of having some representation on the other side of the counter can yield generational dividends. So talk to me a little bit about, what do you think your business, what do you think the impact your business has on future generations as they look to carry out their dreams of ownership?
It's weird hearing it so often now, but I'm starting to be considered this iconic pioneer in the space, and I don't know, I feel weird about it, but to be able to, the part of it that feels good for me is just to be able to open doors and create opportunities for more people who look like you and I. Mm-hmm. That's why I do what I do, period. Is to open doors and create a way for more of us to play in this space.
The fact that, our business represents something that, can be described as such, it is humbling. And it's, like I said, it does take some getting used to, but with that, I run towards the responsibility that now has been bestowed upon me, right? Occupying a space that will open doors for other businesses, right? I think about our relationships with our retailers and other strategic partners, and the fact that, I believe we have set an example of what it means to do business with a Black-owned company, and Black-owned is not synonymous with mediocre or subpar or charity. That there is value that comes from these type of partnerships, and I'm hoping that again that opens the door, to your point, for others to follow through. So own it. I guess that's if you weren't asking for any advice, so here's some unsolicited. I would say own it. And there's going to be great benefit, residual benefit that comes from you, standing in your light, because you deserve it, right? You are having impact at scale, and that's something that should be celebrated. So, I'm inspired by hearing your story, and I know others will be as well, just given how authentic you are. My grandmother used to always say, what comes from the heart reaches the heart. And you can basically see through, nonsense and the smoke and mirrors. And given how, again, authentic and genuine you are in trying to impact your full ecosystem, trying to impact the supply chain from producer to consumer, is again something that needs to be highlighted and celebrated. So thank you. Because you definitely are a hero in your space, and I'll draw from your story to keep fueling us on our path. Let me ask you this, on your journey as an entrepreneur, and especially having gone through at least one round of raising, I'm curious to know, what are some checkpoints, some moments that stand out to you that you didn't necessarily predict as, you took that first leap of faith?
Well, you know what? I did not come into this with any expectation. And because I had no idea, I just knew that I had made a decision, and that was to dedicate my life to this and whatever came along with that. And so, and not coming into it with any expectation, it's just been, when you say, has there anything, there's been no, the whole journey is a wild card. So there's been no like one time that's like, man, I didn't see this one coming. The whole ride has just been wild. And so I just do my best to just make sure I'm enjoying it the entire way through.
Were you resistant to that? The different pivots and the terms and how topsy-turvy that path may be? Did you have any resistance to that, or are you naturally wired to go with the flow?
I'm thinking back over all of the, just the journey, and I don't think there was a time where I resisted. Trial and error has been how I've built this whole thing, and whatever doesn't work, we shift. Mm-hmm. Whatever does work, we keep, we stick to that. And so it's been a lot of fun. Now when it comes to staffing, I did not, even though I came into this with no expectation, I did not expect for it to be as hard as it was to provide jobs. And that was something that was tough. That was really tough.
May I ask you to elaborate or expound on what you mean by provide jobs? Do you mean relinquishing control and being able to delegate, or just creating space in your operation?
So I think that's what one would think as far as like entrepreneurs have. I think the stereotype is we have control issues and we have a hard time. No, for me, I was a total opposite because I've always been a very resourceful person, and on the production floor level, and because 100% of my crew, for the most part, has been re-entering citizens. So these are people that normally would not stand a chance at getting this type of job because they have, some of them have felonies. And when they look at the rap sheet or the records, it's like, no, they're not stepping foot in my operation. Right. But for mine, I've always welcomed that. But it's been a lot of work there's been a lot of confidence building that we've had to do. So a lot of the work that I've poured into the production workers that have worked with me in the past, I thought it would be as simple as teaching how to operate the line, but most of the work was outside of the building. It was character building. Right. It was communication. Like the biggest thing, the biggest piece of work that we had to do was building communication skills. Is
there anything that you want to expound upon? Any subjects that you want to be included in this content series? Definitely want to make some space for that.
So one thing I always forget to do is tell people where they can find the tea, because I get lost in these things. I do want to mention where you can access and try the products. The most convenient place right now to try it out is to go to Amazon. You can, if Amazon Fresh is in your area, you can get it on there. So we're on Amazon Fresh and Amazon.com. And then we're also in Target stores. And so the product is Ellis Isle Tea, and you're certainly in for a treat. Absolutely amazing. 100% clean label. All of our herbs are steeped by hand. When you look at the ingredient list, it's not going to look like a foreign science project. It's going to look like, oh, I have all these ingredients in my pantry, and it's going to taste like it too. And it's absolutely amazing.
This is awesome. I really appreciate this conversation. I know I will certainly glean from what we talked about. You have inspired me. What was that?
I said same here.
Yeah, no, this is dope. And the main focus of this, beyond just having a content series and having some assets to throw up digitally, is really to build community.
Yeah.
It is to connect with other people who are like-minded individuals who have similar stories and have overcome their own set of barriers, all with the intent to improve the quality of life through beverages, through tasty beverages. So I'm hoping that this is the first of many conversations that we can have. However, we can be of service to you over here at Black and Bold, please let me know.